So welcome and thank you for joining the final stakeholder workshop of CityCLIM. And we will be presenting the advanced prototypes of 4 CityCLIM services today. This is how the structure of the presentations will go. So the presentations will be followed each by a Q&A where you can ask questions directly to the presenters, but if there is not enough time or you have questions that relate to the whole project, there will be an opportunity at the end of the presentations in the discussion period where you can then ask further questions. So before we begin with the service presentations, we will have an introduction to the CityCLIM project by Dr. Stephan Holsten, who is the project coordinator.
Okay, so thank you very much, Christine, and warm welcome to all of you for this presentation today. We are very happy that you are joining to the stakeholder workshop. We have the opportunity to present you the current situation of our project, and also as we are coming to an end of the project, the main results that might be also interesting for you. So CityCLIM is a European project, Horizon 2020 project, that is involving several players. These are a mix of industrial players, scientific players, and not very important to mention, especially pilot regions. So the goal of this project is to develop an open platform that is then merging Earth observation data and very high resolution weather models to give that are integrated on a platform that will give to cities and also to citizens in the cities information regarding urban heat island. The motivation is mainly that we expect in the coming years, mainly due to climate change, that heat will increase, especially in cities. And this will have an impact, or already has an impact, on human life in general. Many populations suffer currently already now under this heat. And this is clearly let's say, a problem for the health of the people. Even people are dying from heat. And the way is now to mitigate this. First, to understand where these urban heat islands arise and how we can perhaps counteract on this. Just a very brief overview to give you an impression of how heat can be different in Europe. This is a picture or an image from a satellite, ASTA, showing the surface temperature in 2 different regions on the same day or in the same months mainly. So this is one, Valencia, on the left, so in southeast of Spain in May, and on the right, the city of Bremen in the north of Germany. And you already can imagine that Valencia, as a Mediterranean city, suffers much more under the high temperatures than we have here in Bremen, as an example. So what is the main goal of our project is to provide services, so-called city climate services, and you will see in more detail in this webinar some aspects of the service and more details on the services. And these should support, let's say, really mitigation adaptation strategies to tackle this urban heat island effect. And we are targeting different stakeholders within the city. So this is in the general public, if you want, the normal citizens that will get warnings about this heat wave that is expected, but also decision makers in municipalities that can then, on a longer term spec, act in their city to mitigate this effect by, for example, influencing the building of parks, of water areas, and such and such. So we will inform citizens about climate change, we will warn citizens, and we will provide meaningful decision aid for stakeholders regarding actions that need that have an impact on the microclimate. A bit of technical background, don't want to go too much in detail. At the core of this service is the so-called, we call it generic city climate platform, GCCP, where information coming from outside, being this very high resolution weather model that you will see later during this webinar, Earth observation data coming from the Copernicus program, but also from other means, weather, air quality measurement, in situ measurements in the cities themselves or in the regions are all integrated and then distributed to the different customers, or let's say users of these services. This will be a subscription-based service, but many possibilities of defining this API are possible. It's all depending in the end on the wishes and the needs of the end user or of the customer. Very brief introduction, because you will have an in-depth look into these later on. So we have so-called citizen climate knowledge services that are addressing directly the citizens in the cities. Normally, this data can even will likely be provided for free. These are general climate information services about actual historical measurements in your regions. This is the heat wave information and warning service, like let's say a classical weather service. This is also a pollution information service that will give you a status and a short-term forecast on the expected pollution, and a so-called citizen weather sensation service, where you can then see, let's say, the area where you as a personal feeling of your heat or so is then depicted, so that because each person has a different impression of heat. A person living in the north of Europe will certainly have another one than one living in the south of Europe, etc. So these are different services that will be available for citizens, and then in addition also one second main block will be the city administration services, so for municipalities, for decision makers and takers to adapt certain city-related topics to this new capability, meaning that, for example, they can simulate if I build in a certain area a park, what would be the effect of this park on the surroundings. If I remove a house here, a big house or a skyscraper, what would be the impact regarding the airflow? And such simulation and mitigation strategies will certainly have a big impact on, let's say, the planning activity of a city. This is in very brief the introduction to this project. You see here on this slide some contact points from our side, and we invite you warmly to contact us either now or, of course, then later on if you have further inputs or further questions. Thank you so far. And I hope we have a good webinar. And as Christine already mentioned, we want to have it interactive in a certain sense. So we invite you to ask questions after each talk, I would say. Okay.
Thank you, Stephan.